I vividly remember the day when there was a heavy downpour. As usual, the Trivandrum city was flooded. Then I got a phone call from someone. He introduced himself as a person who was standing in East Fort, neck deep in water. And I could sense the gravity of the situation, because he was very frustrated in his voice. And he said, "Sir, I am standing in the bus station. I am neck deep in water. Dead rats are floating around. Hordes of cockroaches are flying all around. A pregnant woman was vomiting, and after a few vomits, she fell into the water." And he was saying that it's a horrible situation. What sort of life is this? Is it not your responsibility to see that we put a stop to all this nonsense?
I first came to Trivandrum as a 10-year-old in 1966 or maybe 67, and I still remember my parents and I were living in Bombay. But here in Trivandrum there was an overwhelming downpour, a huge monsoon shower, and within 5 minutes at the end of the rains the roads were bone dry. So I asked my father, "How is this possible?" And my father said, "Well, you don't understand, this is one of the best planned cities in India. Every road has been built with a gradient, it slopes into the drains, the water goes out through the drains, and there is no flooding in Trivandrum." You can imagine the sadness I felt 40 years later when I came back to the city after my UN career, to find that when it rained here, much less than in Mumbai, that the streets were once again completely flooded, and that you could actually conduct a swimming competition where the cars were supposed to go.
ഓരോ വർഷവും കൂടി വരുന്ന വെള്ളപ്പൊക്കവും അതിനെ തുടർന്നുണ്ടാകുന്ന മാലിന്യത്തിൻ്റെ ആ ഒരു ഒഴുക്ക് മാത്രമല്ല, മാലിന്യം വന്ന് നിറയുന്നതും രോഗങ്ങളും ഇതെല്ലാം കാണുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ. എത്രയോ വർഷമായി കാണുന്നു, ഇവിടെ ജീവിച്ച് കാണുകയാണ്. ഇവിടെ ജലനിർഗമന മാർഗങ്ങളുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, വലിയ ഓടകളുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, ഇതൊക്കെ ഞങ്ങൾക്കൊക്കെ ഓർമ്മയുണ്ട്. അതൊക്കെ എവിടെ പോയി?
We must remember one thing, in Maharaja's time itself, it is a well-planned city. There were drainage lines, and then also the canals which were carrying away the water. Then the water tanks, especially near the Eastport area, they were the big containers. So any event happening, this absorbs most of the water. But today, most of those channels are blocked by plastics and other waste and things like that.
Flood is only one aspect of all this choking. The other aspect is everybody knows about the communicable diseases, dengue, malaria and stuff like that. But what people are unaware is the fact that many of this garbage in today's modern world is loaded with a lot of heavy metals. Particular mention is mercury. Mercury has a specific tendency to get deposited in fish, and that's what we ultimately consume, and it gets deposited in human system, and then it causes cancer.
The next day I thought I will take my officers to these East Fort and Tampanur, and what we saw was something unbelievable. Lots and lots of places in Tampanur and Kerekekota were underwater, and people were really finding it difficult to move around. I still remember Karimadam colony, when I went there, a person who his house was full of water, and that too dirty water. You can't even stand anywhere near. He was very critical, and he said that we are not interested in your metro project, whether it is light metro or major metro, we don't care. Give us some good drinking water and prevent us from all these floods. Do something. The next day, luckily it was a cabinet day, so I thought I will make a presentation in the cabinet. So before the cabinet started, I requested the Honorable Chief Minister to give me a few minutes to make a presentation. They didn't have any clue as to what it was. I also thought let there be some suspense. And as soon as we started playing the video, the ministers were exclaiming, saying that, "Where is this? Is it in Trivandrum? We can't believe this." Then I told them that yes, it's very much in Trivandrum, and these are some of the places in Kerekekota, Tampanur and those areas. They were all very agitated, and then the Chief Minister said, "Come water me, we should clean this mess." And then another minister said, "Let the Chief Secretary be in charge of this, let him take the responsibility." And then I said, "I have no hesitation to take up this responsibility. on condition that there should be given total support and there shall be no interference.
തമ്പാനൂരിലെ വെള്ളക്കെട്ട് അതിന് ഒരു പരിഹാരം ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നതിന് എല്ലാ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റുകളെയും കോർഡിനേറ്റ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾക്ക് നേതൃത്വം കൊടുക്കാനായിട്ട് ചീഫ് സെക്രട്ടറിയെ ചുമതലപ്പെടുത്തിയിരുന്നു. അത് സംബന്ധിച്ചുള്ള ഒരു പ്രസൻറ്റേഷനും ഒരു ബ്രീഫിങ്ങും ചീഫ് സെക്രട്ടറി ക്യാബിനറ്റിൽ തന്നു. ഇതുവരെ എടുത്ത നടപടികൾ പൂർണ്ണമായി അംഗീകരിക്കുകയും കൂടുതൽ ഊർജ്ജസ്വലമായി മുമ്പോട്ട് ആ പദ്ധതി നടപ്പിലാക്കണം എന്ന് തീരുമാനിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തു.
Next day the media carried it as a joke. So basically what they said is we have been getting such repeated statements every year but nothing happens on the ground. So that gave us some kind of a motivation to launch a program itself wherein we find a lasting solution for it.
The next day we decided to call a meeting of all the engineers and my revenue officials. Suddenly there was a surprise call. Again this is an anonymous call and the voice said, if you want to know how the entire area is getting flooded, please come to the Ganapati temple in Paravangadi. I decided to go in another car and nobody recognized me because I went rather incognito and I was watching the proceedings there. The believers were coming, breaking coconuts in front of the sanctum sanctorum, and the coconut water they were collecting in a tank, and there was so much of stench in it, and the nearby drain was all covered up, and the coconut vendors had very happily selling coconuts over that area and leaving very little space for water to flow. Came back little late and I apologized for coming late and told the meeting that I have just come back after a site inspection. I didn't tell where I had gone. Then called the concerned assistant executive engineer and asked him, are you aware that there is a drain like this? So he flatly refused. He said, there is no such drain, sir. Then I said, how long have you been working here? He said, 1.5 years. I said, 1.5 years? You haven't seen this drain?
So Chief Secretary basically asked that question, do you know where the canal is? But there was no question from the certain departments.
The degradation of environment is responding or reacting in the form of unusual temperature variations, unusual variation in the rainfall. Sometimes we call the busting, cloud busting or so forth. What we have to focus is how even with the increase in urbanization we can protect urban life, we can prevent urban flooding, or we can mitigate and respond urban flooding effectively.
Trivandrum City Corporation is one of the very few city corporations in the country which has a approved city disaster management plan. The city disaster management plan contains a detailed hazard and vulnerability assessment. This assessment was carried out by the State Emergency Operations Center of SDMA, and it contains in detail the flood prone areas of every ward of Trivandrum city. Taking the thread of flood hazard in the city, the Operation Anantha as a mission mode project was triggered by the District Disaster Management Authority, which is chaired by the district collector.
We held a series of consultations with important scientific organizations like the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, the Amrita University, the National Center for Earth Science Studies, and of course the College of Engineering in Trivandrum. So we have tried to enlist the advice from all these agencies, and so that the action that we take is proper, scientific and very meticulous.
So he said maybe that is the first step we need to do. We need not go in for a new project. We need not go for construction of new canals. What we have to do is find the existing canals and reconstruct them to the original level. So then our exploration of canals of Trivandrum started. So for next 2 months from May and June, every day it is an exploration visit. Myself, the district collector will be the team leader. The Tahsildar, the village officers, the entire survey team will walk along the canals of Trivandrum and with a map in our hand, old Travancore map which had a detailed drainage system for the city of Travancore. Map in the hand and find out the various canals and their present status. What we could find is in most of the areas, canals which are supposed to be 7 meters in width were shrunk to about 70 centimeters in size.
We had to take a very strong decision, and we decided that because our aim is to ensure free flow of water through the drains, all the encroachments, whether they are by political parties or by the government or by the local people, we will get them removed. So we gave strict directions that all the encroachments should be removed, I would say mercilessly.
Initially there was some hiccups, there was some opposition from private parties, public and all. But later on, once they understood, like this is going to be a solution for their problems also. So basically they had built their houses next to the canals and they were getting regularly flooded. They started supporting instead of opposing. So whereas houses were concerned, like we didn't have any problem at all, people came forward to give their land, the encroached portion, to widen up the canal, with the only one assurance that their problem will be solved. Then we found out that a large number of sacred buildings were on the top of the canals, sacred worship places were there, sacred trees were there, sacred political offices were there. So-called so many sacred things were there on the canals, which is itself is very sacred. Sanctity of canals have gone, so many things have come in. So then we started removing each one of them. For example, there were two quasi-political outfits who had their offices adjacent to each other on a major canal of Trivandrum. So we had talks with them initially, lots of opposition, and then they were seeing who will relent first. And suddenly one political outfit came and said, we are in support of Operation Anantha. So you can dismantle us, we will immediately vacate. Within next 10 minutes, the other political outfit came. We also support Operation Anantha. They also vacated the place. So that's how we were able to tackle such officers.
Unfortunately, never in the history of Trivandrum, a holistic, well thought out scientific program was ever formulated, because this is one thing which cannot be done by a single department, which means that it requires different departments, coordination, funds, and most importantly the support from the government.
A major problem that we encountered in Trivandrum was the multiplicity of agencies. We had number of agencies. We had minor irrigation, major irrigation, roads, then KSUDP, KWA, Kerala State Electricity Board, BSNL and whatnot. Multiple agencies were handling this entire operation, and that called for lots of coordination and also delay. If there were only one agency, we could have handled this much better.
As a nodal agency, first I have called all these agencies for a discussion, and in the meeting it was decided to have a uniform pattern of design for these canal systems, and also following a uniform data and specifications as followed in PWD. So this system was adopted so that if there is any complaint regarding the execution of works and inquiry is ordered, it should be a foolproof method of execution.
No project in Kerala would have been monitored in the way in the case as in the case of Operation Anantha, because CS, just like our friends, even to the level of overseer, assistant engineers, he has created his own WhatsApp group, and everybody was supposed to take the camera, shoot the incident, and whatever problems, everything has been put on the WhatsApp. And immediately either I will be answering, and in the case if it is escalated to his level, he will be answering.
Anantha was a little, or I'll say radically different approach, where the learning was on the go, planning was crisp, we had deadlines, people huddled up together, and any course correction was actually on the go. We had this boardroom meetings, reviews, at the same time we had this quick stand-up meetings, on the site, wherever there is an issue, there is a challenge, everyone huddled up, and the discussions takes place there itself, decisions required is given, quickly minuted, and approvals are given.
അത് ഒരുപാട് കഷ്ടങ്ങൾ അനുഭവിക്കേണ്ടി വന്നു. എന്തെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അവിടെ വെളിയിലും ഇവിടെ എല്ലാം കൂടെ തോണ്ടിയിട്ടപ്പോഴേ അമ്മച്ചിക്ക് ഒരുപാട് ഇതായി. പക്ഷേ ഇവിടെ ഒരു ദിവസം രാവിലെ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ ബാത്റൂം ഇതെല്ലാം കൂടെ തറമട്ടം. ഞാൻ 11 മണിക്ക് ഈ ബാങ്കിൽ പോയി എൻ്റെ കുറച്ച് പൈസ എടുക്കാമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് ബാങ്കിൽ പോയപ്പോൾ അവിടെ നിന്ന് 2-3 ആളുകൾ പറഞ്ഞ് പിന്നെ അമ്മച്ചി ചീഫ് സെക്രട്ടറിയെ വിളിച്ചോ എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ അവന് മോനെ വിളിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട് അമ്മച്ചിക്ക് ഉടനെ തന്നെ അത് ശരിയാക്കും. 3 മണിയായപ്പോഴേക്ക് ചട്ടിയിൽ സിമെൻറ്റും ഇത് കരണ്ടിയൊക്കെ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് കതവ് തട്ടി മോൻ വിളിച്ചപ്പോഴെനിക്ക് കുറച്ചൊരു അവർ വന്നപ്പോൾ ചെയ്യുമോ എന്ന് എനിക്ക് ഇതില്ല, പക്ഷെ മോൻ വിളിച്ചപ്പോൾ ഓട്ടം വന്ന് ചെയ്തു.
You know, cleaning up these drains was not an easy job. First of all, you should understand that Trivandrum is a very densely populated place, and we were carrying out these cleaning operations in the heart of Trivandrum, especially Chala and those surrounding areas, the commercial capital of Trivandrum. That is where all the trading activity takes place. Now to construct these drains, cleaning it up, desilting, constructing these drains without disturbing the ongoing process of trade is itself a huge task. And then you will come across some houses jutting into the drains. Then there are some officers, and so some people will go and get stay orders. Luckily, most of them they could not get stay orders from the courts, because as per the Disaster Management Act, only the High Court and the Supreme Court can intervene. The junior subordinate courts have no jurisdiction on this. So that way we were quite happy. And then to carry out this operation through this very busy streets of Trivandrum, and there are so many other events taking place in this area. This Putrikandam Maidan is famous for political party meetings and exhibitions, trade exhibitions, and various other cultural activities. So whenever some activity takes place, we cannot hold it back. We have to carry out our operation at the same time, ensure that there is no disturbance to their programs. The most important work starts from Ganapati temple in Paravangadi, and from the Ganapati temple the drain goes to Homeo hospital, and then to the Abhedanand ashram, and it is then connected to the PWD drain near the Padmatirtham tank. This is one of the major drains which we have cleaned up and constructed. The second one is from the Chengal Chula and through the Ame Tod behind Malayala Manorama and Deshabhimani, and this is connected to the mosque lane. The third one is from the mosque lane to the KSRTC bus station and connects it to the railway station in Tampanur. Then another one is in the busy streets of Chalai. From the Tamil school, near the Tamil school, it goes to Atakulangara. That is yet another one. And from Chalai to Edumakuri is another drain which we had to construct, and this is again a very important drain which passes through the busiest commercial streets of Trivandrum. And from Kuriati to Karimadam Colony and to Rotukada Junction is yet another one. Now you see that in all these areas we have taken the most important lanes, most important drains, and everywhere we have ensured that the drain has a width of at least 3 meters. I am very happy to tell you that we have now completed almost 30 kilometers of drain in these Tambanur Kerkekota areas. I can guarantee that Trivandrum will not witness the type of floods which we had seen before.
ഒരു മഴ പെയ്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ റോഡ് മൊത്തം വെള്ളമാണ്, ഈ കുരിയാത്തി കരിമട മൊത്തം വെള്ളമാണ്. ഈ ഓട ഇപ്പോൾ വന്നതിന് ശേഷം വെള്ളത്തിൻ്റെ ഇതുവരെ മഴകളിൽ വന്നിട്ടില്ല. ഫുള്ളായിട്ട് ഈ ഓട വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ കരിമടത്തിൽ വെള്ളം കയറില്ല. ഈ കുരിയാത്തി മണക്കാട് ഈ ചാല ഭാഗത്തുള്ള എല്ലാ ഭാഗത്തുള്ള വെള്ളം ഈ വലിയ ഓട വഴി പോകുന്നതായിരിക്കും. അതായിരിക്കും സർക്കാർ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഏറ്റവും വലിയ നല്ല ഒരു ഉപകാരമാണ് ഇത് ചെയ്യുന്നത്.
First time perhaps in the history of Government of Kerala that the Disaster Management Act was actually used to look after the basic issues of the city's sanitation, hygiene, etc. Chief Secretary himself was visiting the place. I also visited the places, and he gave regular media releases on this with into the print media as well as to the electronic media as to how this is going to benefit the people. This has also set up a chain reaction that it is possible to use Disaster Management Act to clean up our cities.
ഓപ്പറേഷൻ അനന്തയ്ക്ക് ശേഷം ഈ വെള്ളപ്പൊക്ക നിലയ്ക്കകത്ത് വലിയ പുരോഗതി നമുക്ക് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ പഴയതുപോലെ വെള്ളം കിട്ടുന്ന ഒരു അവസ്ഥ തിരുവനന്തപുരം നഗരത്തിനകത്ത് ഒഴിവാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ കുറേ കയ്യേറ്റങ്ങളും മറ്റുമൊക്കെ ഒഴിപ്പിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി അനന്തയുടെ ഭാഗമായി സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ തിരുവനന്തപുരം നഗരസഭയുടെ കൂടി ഒരാവശ്യമായിരുന്നു ഓപ്പറേഷൻ അനന്ത പൂർത്തിയായി വരിക എന്നുള്ളത്.
What if people again throw their dirt and everything in the drain again? Because you see, this can come only by a proper way of inculcating civic sense. We people are very keen to keep our houses clean, but we don't mind throwing everything on the road. We feel that it is the government's job to clean up the drains and the roads. They should not leave it for the corporation or the government agency to come and process it.
The floods in Chennai were actually a very serious warning to the nation, and certainly also to places like Trivandrum and Kochi. A lot of the construction and development of Chennai took place without sufficient regard to the basic rules of nature. You found that the marshlands and the wetlands were built over. You found that in many cases the natural drainage of rivers and water bodies towards the sea was obstructed by construction. So the very great importance in every city of having effective drainage and having drainage paths will take the waters into canals, rivers, other water bodies, and ultimately to the sea. This is extremely important. Operation Anantha is one step in that direction. A lot more proactively needs to be done.
Before the rains come, that is let's say in the month of January, February, March, April, May, you have got 6 months. In these 6 months, these cleaning operations took place every year, so that the onset of monsoon will not result in any kind of flooding anywhere in the state. Some of our collectors in Kannur, in Calicut, in Malappuram, in Kottayam, in Ernakulam, they have all carried out similar operations, and I am confident that this great problem of flooding can be avoided to a great extent.
Honorable Chief Secretary has come here. We have shown him a couple of ponds called Chettiyar Kulam, Valiya Kulam and Anakulam, and Padanathodu and other water bodies. He said we will have a target of 3 months. Within 3 months, can you do at least this Chettiyar Kulam to a complete change? In fact, when you go there, you cannot believe that there is a pond there or there is a kulam there. It was completely filled with mud. It was completely filled with this water hyacinth. It was trees were already flown into this. Then somebody has to completely clear that whole water hyacinth. So I talked to the Central Prison Superintendent in Kannur. They have given us 30 inmates who were so positive about this whole thing, and they cleared this pond of the exterior water hyacinth within maybe 3 days or so.
Manarkad Taluka has got the town has got the maximum tightness. There is no space for the traffic and all. So what we have done is we have done an extensive survey from say Nellipura bridge to Kundipura bridge. So we have found out that there are 385 encroachments. Right now we have got almost 6 acres of land got released. I think approximately 25 lakhs is the person cost here in the town. 6 acres of land we have released.
When I was first posted here, the first thing I observed was lot of unauthorized temporary structures in Fort Kochi Beach and in Vasco da Gama Square. The problem is unique here because unlike other places, they don't have a permanent structure. Mostly the structures are temporary and they are all over the area. So what we did was under Disaster Management Act, we held a 2-3 days eviction program wherein we removed them. And of course, we were never against the livelihood of these people. They were allowed to sell their wares and also to conduct their business between working hours, that is 6:30 in the morning to 6:30 in the evening.
Operation Anantha, the beauty is the more stress is given to the identification of age-old drainage systems which are buried or hidden and reviving and recharging them. And as I said, because this has the support of all these 3 important elements, political will, the bureaucratic will and the people support, this has been a great success.
What we have seen today is perhaps the success story of a bureaucrat who has committed himself to the task and really planned out every aspect of the task and implemented in a time-bound manner.
In fact, I would recommend that this model be taken forward nationally. There are many other cities in which similar problems, not necessarily flooding, but flooding is the most obvious example, but also other kinds of problems, can be dealt with through an effective application of existing legal systems, existing government funding such as disaster management funding, a proactive vision, and the strong political backing. Because obviously many of the people who will lose out in the short term may have political clout, and the government has to back the administrators in getting it done without caving in to political pressure from those who might object.
Change equals vision multiplied by determination multiplied by next steps. This is exactly what the Honorable Prime Minister of India has proved. After taking over as the Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi has initiated number of innovative programs. Swachh Bharat, for example, you see, he has a vision for it. He is very determined, and he also knows what to do next. We must realize that nothing great in this world has ever been achieved without passion. So you need to be very passionate about what you are doing. If we have that sort of passion, I am confident that things will change, not only in Kerala, but in other parts of India as well.